What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to be revisiting this raft project. If you haven't seen the first video that I did on this Juniper, you can go in and check it out at the link that we're going to put at the top of the screen. And that was about 9 months ago. So it's had a fall, spring, and part of a summer or I guess winter's in there too, to grow out. And I've gotten some really nice long shoots here. Now, this tree is still in early development, and that means that I am just pushing it to grow as quickly as possible. And to keep an eye on what it's doing, I just check in with it once a year or something like that. So today I'm not going to be taking it out of the box or cutting it back. All I'm doing basically is checking these wires that I applied last time in the previous video, and then assessing whether or not I need to add additional wires, because there's definitely some big shoots here that were not here as of 9 months ago. All right, digging down into the left side of this, I'm finding that basically my wire that I put on 9 months ago definitely needs to be removed. So that's the first thing I'm going to do on all of these trunks. All right, wire off, and the next thing I have to do here is to thin out enough of the foliage so that I can actually see the structure. So I would expect that most of the foliage that's down here at the level that it was last time I worked on this tree is not really driving the growth as much as these whips are at this point. So I'm not going to remove all of it, but I'm just going to thin things out enough so that I can assess what the relative size and shape of these trunks is, so that I can make an intelligent decision about how I want to proceed with designing the plant. So as you can see, there's a fair bit of chaos here at this point. Like, we don't have a lot of harmony in what these whips are doing, which is exactly what I would expect, because they're just uncontrolled and pretty much, a foot worth of growth since I last wired it. And Kishu tend to just sort of create like a vase-shaped pattern of growth. So I'm going to go through here and carefully analyze the number of trunks and the directions they're going, and then also try to think about whether or not what we're looking at right now is the actual front, or whether I need to rotate it slightly to the left or slightly to the right, or even turn it around. And if you're doing this type of work, take your time analyzing it, because especially with a raft, it's a pretty complicated piece of material at this point. Even though it's only a couple of years on from just being, the size of a single whip like this, there's a lot more complexity to this piece at this point. And obviously that's what I'm after. But if you're doing this, take your time in analyzing your plant. You've spent a lot of time growing it, and you don't want to waste all of that growth. Much better. I went ahead and dumped off all of the loose soil into a tub. I'll put that back in as soon as I'm done actually working on the plant, because I'm not ready for this thing to stop issuing roots from around the base of each one of these whips. I want those to continue going. But with all that soil in here, I can't really see what the line of the raft looks like. And you guys can probably see it even less on video. But I'm going to clear it away here enough so that I can see it, then analyze it at the angle that I think it'll be at, which, you know, keeps the raft relatively flat. And then I'll maybe prop it back up a little bit so that I can show you guys the raft. All right, so again, here's the original root base of the plant before it was planted in this box to become a raft. And now, after a couple of years, I've got roots issuing from the base of each one of these. Some of these are a little bit too high up like this, so I'll go ahead and remove that. And same thing with this next one. So there's a nice root right here at the base of this. And, you know, these guys are a little bit high too. You kind of have to think about how big are these things going to get as you continue to grow your plant out. And think about, you know, I don't think there are far fewer examples of good nabari on raft-style trees than there are on just a regular informal upright or formal upright or something like that. So, you know, just look at it and think about it logically. So I'm cutting off stuff that's kind of going upward or coming out of these new trunks above what I think will be the finished soil line once the composition is more reaching maturity. All right, I think I've made some decisions. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing wired, and then I'll get it bent into shape and kind of explain what I'm doing. All right, so all the big whips are wired, and what I'm going to do now is kind of try to get everything to harmonize a little bit more than it does right now. And basically, I still don't know for sure what the front will be, but at the moment, I like the space that's in here more than I like the tree from that direction. So for the time being, I'm going to design it with this as the front in mind. When I originally put this together, I was thinking that it would be obviously like a windswept kind of mountain composition that is a raft. But I was thinking that like this side would be sort of taller and it would wedge down, it's directionally that way. The wind is coming from this direction. And so it's kind of creating a ramp for the wind to go up over. So this side would be longer and less mangled, and this side would be shorter and more mangled. But as it's grown out, this left side has really kind of caught up to the growth that was on this side that was ahead. So that's made me kind of revisit whether or not that's actually what I want to do. It's still possible, but I'm just going to go ahead and see what I can do in terms of bending and placing all of these whips. And I'm not sure that I'll keep all of them as trunks, but it is possible for this style to have a lot of trunks. All right, well, there it is from one side, and you can see I've kind of put complementary movement and gotten everything going in the same direction for the most part. This may end up being the front. All it would take is a little bit of reorientation of the tops and the relative spacing of the trunks, or this might end up being the front. And because this is still really early in the development of this tree, I'm really, I'm not committing to either one of those, and that's why I haven't like really removed any significant growth. All of these whips are intact. And so I'm just giving myself as many options as possible, essentially. One of the interesting things about this process, specifically having to do with rafts, is that you can't control the relative positions of the base of these trunks for the most part. Once they are established along that raft line that I have in here that's sort of snake-shaped, you can't really move them relative to each other. You can't move the base, at least. But one thing you can do, which I did with this one, is you can take that base and basically create a new portion of the raft by laying down part of it into the soil, and then it'll root where you've laid it down and you've moved your trunk away from the other. So that's what I did with this one, because I wanted a little bit more forward foliage motion on this side to kind of fill out that crescent shape that I've created in here and give yourself sort of a little welcoming kind of spot away from the wind on the top of the mountain. If you're in the process of creating juniper rafts, share your experiences with everyone in the comments below. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.